Right, everyone, we're back. Back with another Sprinter video. Back with a Sprinter strip. Back on the last door now. Sliding door. Least favourite door of a van. Any van in general. Sliding doors aren't fun to strip. Mainly because of the amount of cables in them that go from all your interior, exterior handles. Yeah, to your bottom roller. Yeah, they're just not pleasant to strip. I don't enjoy sliding doors. But yeah, we've got to strip them. To paint it right is the best way to do it, is to get it stripped fully. You know, you could paint it with the stuff in. You could leave the cables inside the cavities and paint it in, just so you know they're all back where they are. But I'm going to go and spend the time labeling it. Label it as best I can. And again, your best evidence is photographs, you know, what goes where for stuff like this. Because, you know, by the time you get the shell painted and get all your panels painted and you start fitting it back up, that could be a couple of weeks. So, you know, it's easy to forget what goes where, so it's always good for evidence. But yeah, that was just me stripping off the sliding door roller there. That was in the centre of the door, so we get him off. We get the Torxes put on a cardboard template, get that labelled up again, nice and organised, the way I like things. I can go to that when I'm building it up and just take the screws out and just start fitting stuff in nice and fast. Again, just looking for a different tool there. So again, bump stop off the centre of the door, get him released. Torxes back in the template. And then, yeah, we're going to go for... They're just two plastic little inserts that sit in the door. I'm not actually sure what they're for. But yeah, after me saying in the last video about these Sprinter handles, nice and easy to take out, this sliding door one has proved me wrong, because the rivy nut that goes inside the barrel for the handle, for the block, that's actually spinning in there. So I'm backing that Torx out and nothing's happening and thinking, right, this isn't good. So I just leave it for a minute. I don't get angry. I just walk away. Best thing to do in that situation, because you can start getting angry. You know, anyone that does this knows how easy it is to do a job, and you think, why is that not working the way I want it to? So sometimes you're just better off walking away, having a think about it, going back to it, and then you can get stuck in then. So yeah, interior handle, that's 3 Torxes. They've just got 3 plastic like grommets that sit over the Torx heads, just to keep the Torxes from being tampered with, I think, really. And they're not on show inside the van. If that was a minibus, you know, you don't want to be seeing them Torxes there. So again, they've just got little covers over them. That does have 2 cables feeding to that on the inside of the van. So anyone stripping one of these, just be aware it doesn't have one. It's got 2 cables on it. So yeah, just be aware of that. Now, like I say, there is a lot of cables in these sliding doors. Sliding doors are just a nightmare in my opinion. I don't enjoy stripping them. So again, them Sprinter handles, when you take the barrel out, when eventually you can get the barrel out, you pull the handle back and you turn it 90 degrees to release it. But yeah, I'm just fighting with that barrel, with that Torx there, drilling that Torx out. Again, you got to be so careful how far you drill into that. You don't want to go right through and make the hole too big that when you put the new Torx back in, that it goes straight through and, you know, it's not going to grip to hold the barrel in place. Because if that's the case, then you're buying a brand new sliding door and they're not cheap, so we don't want to be doing that. So we're just being careful here. Again, I'm pretty confident I can get this out. Even if I couldn't, it's my door. If I mess this up, it's me. It's on me. It's my door. It's not a customer's at the end of the day. Yeah, it wouldn't be ideal to go and have to buy a brand new Mercedes door, because they're not cheap. But it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I'd feel a lot worse if it was a customer's door. But yeah, we get this sorted, we get it out. Just a bit of faffing around here. Just again, being gentle, trying not to ratchet anything, trying not to break anything I don't need to break or don't want to break. Again, I know that barrel's pretty goosed. I'm going to be replacing that. I mean, I could put a new rivy nut in it. It is just a rivy nut that's spinning in there. There's nothing wrong with the barrel, but it's not worth taking the risk. I'd rather just get a brand new one from Mercedes. I know where I stand. You know, that's me good then for a long time. Again, sliding doors, I see it all the time. People open sliding doors like they're trying to shut a door on the Titanic, swinging off them. You don't need to swing off them. Yes, they're a heavy door. All you need to do is pop the handle, like open the handle like a normal door. I see people swinging off them, thinking, no wonder your door doesn't work. You're swinging off it. And then they moan that the door doesn't work. I'm thinking, yeah, no wonder. But yeah, just, you can't go swinging off door handles. They're not designed for that. See people like holding onto them and open them with full force and thinking, don't expect that door to work for much longer because they're not designed to be open like that. You know, they're not designed to be open like that at all. The way people slam doors is pretty ruthless, to be honest. I see it quite a lot. But yeah, just unrouting all my cables now. Again, taking good note of what goes where here, because these are going to be out the door for a bit, so it's always good to have your photos or a video for yourself and label it. Like, that's what I'm going to do here. Just going to get a roll of 1-inch tape, put some labels on, what's going where. They're my top ones, interior handle, that's what I've labelled them as. I'll label any bottom ones, and then there's obvious ones I know go where, but some of them you just don't know. Some of them are color coded. They have plastic collars on them, and you could color code them. But I'm just gonna label them top, bottom, center. Just easier. You got the top of the door, center of your door, bottom of your door. That's where it's gonna be fixing to. So just makes it simple for me. Make sure I can understand it. It's me that's gonna be building it at the end of the day, so I need to make it make sense to me, no one else. It's what makes sense to you at the end of the day. So that's me taking the inner gasket handle out there. So again, they're hard to get out of there. There's not much room for you to fish that out of that cavity. There's just not a lot of room. Even to get your hand up in there, there's not a great deal of room. Again, them cables, they've got them foam like rings you can see around them just to keep them from slapping off the inside of your door. So when you shut your door, your cables aren't slapping off the inside of your door. Because that's what they're designed for, it keeps them, from slapping. Because if you take all them off and you shut your door, you're going to hear all the cables slapping off the inside metal skin. And that won't be a nice noise, And not only that, you don't want to take any paint off on the inside of your door either. Because then the doors are going to start rusting from the inside out, and no one needs that. These things rust bad enough as it is. They don't need any more help. So yeah, that's me just doing a bit of fishing there now, fishing that out. Again, you want to store that in its natural shape that it comes out in. You don't want to go rolling that up into a big ball and kinking it into a small box. Them cables get kinked. You're never going to get them back to how they should be. You're into buying brand new ones then. So yeah, just putting the Torxes in that handle gasket there, as you've seen. Boxing everything up, nice and organised. Label that up as my sliding door box. Yeah, I can forget about that then. And then we're going to get on to cutting the window out, because I'm going to put a window in the sliding door. I've cut one in the opposite panel of the van, so I'll have windows in the same panels but on opposite sides of the van, if that makes sense. So they're parallel to each other. Full security glass, blacked out security glass. No one can see in, but I can see out of them. Again, just going to turn the compressor off, get the air cat here, cutting through the inner skin, cutting through the brace. That disc's not doing much there. It's a bit short now. At least I got the money's worth out of that. They're not cheap, them Worth discs. Not that I pay for them, the boss does, but you want to make sure you're getting the best of your money's worth out of the discs and the abrasives at the end of the day, because it's not cheap to replace all that stuff. Again, the air cat just absolutely ripping through them skins there. What a tool that is. Again, I don't do much of this. This is only the second window panel I ever cut out. The first one was on my own van that you've seen in the previous video. I don't cut these panels out. I'm a painter by trade. That's what my skill and my profession is. I'm a painter. So this is more panel beater side of the trade, but it's good to get stuck into that side sometimes. Not saying I'd ever switch over to it, but it's just good to keep your hand at small bits of that sort of work. It's good to use as tools as well. It is fun. Again, air saw for the corners, just nice and easy. It's so precise to cut round curves with the air saw. Air tools are just so much better as well. Batteries are, obviously, if you don't have the luxury of a compressor in your workshop that can power these air tools, then that's obviously, you've got to put up with battery tools or whatever you can use, but air tools are so powerful. And again, that stand you just see me adjust there, I decided to put a bumper stand under that panel with some foam blocks on. So when I cut that panel out, that's not going to pull on the door skin and hit the deck and damage the door as well, and it's just going to be easier that's not pulling and stressing the metal when I'm cutting it. Because if I didn't have anything there, there'd be some pressure on that, and that's just going to fold in and it's going to rip the door skin. It's not going to do it any good, it's going to pull on the metal. So yeah, that was my night done there. So this is me the next day now. Here, Saturday, no one's in, just me. I've got the booth to myself. We're actually moving out of here soon, so I'm prepping my van in there. It's not dirty. I'm going to keep it clean anyway, but I'm going to prep in here and prime in here over the next 2 days. Get any of that bare metal epoxy primed. Again, stop any rust. That epoxy is just brilliant. You know, it's weather resistant, corrosion resistant. You know, you can get it wet, you know, and it doesn't matter. It's not porous like traditional high build primers are porous, so they'll pull in moisture. And if they're pulling in moisture, that's no good, because then you're getting micro blisters down the line later on, you know, year or two after, maybe even 6 months, you know, in the summertime when that's out in the sun, that paintwork will start micro blistering. So yeah, that's why you're always better off for big projects like this. Epoxy primer is just what you want to be using. A bit more expensive, but you pay what you get at the end of the day. You know, if it's something you care about, you want to be putting good products on it. You don't want to be putting cheap, nasty products on it that aren't going to do a good job. So yeah, just get the ladders here now. I need to get the roof all blown off. Just getting all the dust off the van. There's a heavy layer of dust over everything, so just get it all blown off, cleaned, ready for me to start working on it. I'm going to be making dust, but hey, at the end of the day, we're in the booth, we want it clean. So we've got the fans on, we're going to get the dust extractor in soon. We're going to go from there. I do have to apologise, I should have said it at the start of the video. Whoever's probably noticed it by now, the slight flicker in the video, because I'm filming this in a hyperlapse, in a time warp hyperlapse shoot, whatever you call it. This is like 8-9 hours of footage broken down into half an hour, so unless I was to film it in real time, I can't fully edit it out. It's only in the booth, it's just filming in booths. It's the amount of LED lights that are in there and the shadows, it creates a horrible flicker effect, so I've edited it out the best I can, so I do apologise for that. Just had a bit of a mechanical there on the dust extractor. The wheel decided to fall off as I pulled it into the booth. To be fair, that extractor's done me well. I've had that for about 9 years now, and it's never really given me any problems at all, to be honest. Solid extractor, that. I'd definitely get another one of them. Just works every time. You know, you pay for what you get at the end of the day. You buy cheap extractors or, you know, poor brand extractors, Team U stuff, then expect bad quality. But that extractor there, they're a body shop industry probably leader, I would say. You know, they cover all bases of the body shop world. They know what they're doing. They make some mega products. Sanders, buffers, polishers, you know, other air tools, they make some really good stuff, and I rate their stuff. Not everyone does, but that's just my opinion. I like their stuff at the end of the day, so I'm going to continue to use it. So if anyone doesn't like it, that's fair enough, but I use it, that extractor every day, and you know, it doesn't leave hardly much dust around my jobs. You know, it does get the majority of it up when you're sanding, so that's what's important. You know, you don't want to be paying big money for an extractor and it's not taking the dust away, because then it's just a waste of money. But I'm just putting a skim of filler in there, just a skim of glaze. I just had a bit of a rough edge I wasn't happy with. If someone had done a previous repair, I'd taken their repair out and I was just going to redo it. So yeah, I decided to do that. Again, I didn't want to leave any body filler in up until me knowing this epoxy primer was turning up, because again, body filler is porous for anyone that doesn't know. So if you're leaving body filler out in the workshop, it's cold now, this is October when I'm filming this, you don't want that body filler absorbing any moisture, pulling it in. You know, that's how you get micro blisters. You know, you don't need that. So we're going to leave that filler till this day now, where we're going to be getting epoxy primer on. We're in the booth. It's not going to get a chance to get any moisture in it. Again, I'm just blocking some repairs there. They're just previous filler repairs I've done. Got them to a certain state and I've left enough in them, but they're not too bad. Like, I've done them 2 days before or something, so I'm not too stressed about that. You know, if they were sat out in the workshop for a couple of weeks, I'd be a bit concerned. You know, you'd want the infrareds on there to warm them up and try and draw any moisture out of the filler, because you don't want any moisture sat in your filler, because that's not going to be good when the van's sat out in the summertime for, you know, a good year or so in that sunlight. But yeah, just taking the DA now, getting any of that surface rust keyed up, because the van has been sat for a bit. Like I say, I just wanted to get that side ripped off, see what rust was underneath. So I was happy to leave it sit bare metal for a week. It's only been, you know, just under a week now, so there's nothing too major gone on. So yeah, just getting her all cleaned up. Any rust, belt sanded out, ground out. DA back, 80, 180, 320. ready for my epoxy primer. So this MIPA epoxy primer that I'm using, their TDS specifies you finish in P320 grit sandpaper, so that's what I'm going to be finishing in. Certain brands require different grades of sandpaper. Some might say 240 grit, some might say 180 grit. So yeah, it's all about checking your TDS. Always check your TDS sheets. For people that don't know what TDS sheet means, technical data sheet. If you want to get technical there, for people that don't know, that is just your, again, technical data sheet of your paint or primer that you're going to use, basically giving you all the information of how to apply it, what your bake times are, what your application temperature should be, your flash off, should you use an air-fed mask? Yes. Well, you should use an air-fed mask anyway, but yeah, it tells you all that good stuff, all that really good information. So yeah, always read your TDS sheets. It is useful and it will help. Especially if it's a product you've never used before. If it's something you use every day, you've obviously read your TDS because you know how to use it. But stuff that you don't use every day, like this MIPA stuff, I don't use this every day. I've used the brand before. I've used the clear coats, I've used the primers, and I really rate them. They're a German brand. They don't mess around. The quality's good. I've never had a bad experience with any of their products, to be honest. So we'll continue to still use them. So I was wanting to use the Octral epoxy primer, but we can't actually access that on our paint scheme at the moment. You can buy the epoxy in, but you can't actually mix it off the scheme, which is pretty weird. So I don't know what's going on there, but that would have been nice to use, because it'd be a full Octral paint system that would be going on the van then. The only product I'm going to be using different is this MIPA. So I'll be using this MIPA epoxy, and then it's all Octral brand of paint from there on out. High build, base coat and clear coat. So yeah, again, another German brand that make phenomenal product paint. They're part of the Sherwin-Williams family, which is Valspar and whoever else, De Beer. Again, mega paint brands that make good products. All the German stuff is they're just, again, so far ahead in the game. No one's coming close to their stuff. The Octral range is fantastic. Like, our scheme is mint. I have no complaints about it. The only complaint I do have, so on previous schemes I've used, so if you go to mix like a quarter of a litre of base coat up, which is colour, and it'll tell you how much that's going to cost you in sterling GDP or US dollars, whatever you're working in, wherever you are. That'll tell you what that's going to cost you. So if you want to mix 500ml up or a litre, it'll say, oh, that's going to cost you this amount. But the Octral scheme, the reps were saying, oh yeah, you've got to pay for that as an extra. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't have to pay for that. The scheme is expensive enough as it is. No one should have to pay for that. That should just come as standard on the scheme. But they're like, no, you've got to pay for that. So that's my only complaint with Octral. Apart from that, the paint's good. Everything's good. There's no complaints with the products. Just that's my only small complaint, because again, everyone wants to see how much they're using and what that would cost, because it's just, you can keep track of it better. It's just generally better, in my head, and in everyone's head it should be, because no one should be getting charged more or less. If you've only used a quarter of a litre, you've used a quarter of a litre. So it's just courses for courses at the end of the day. But no one should have to pay for that. The schemes are expensive enough, and you're paying for all their support anyway. You can ring them boys day or night and they'll pick the phone up. But that's how it should be. Obviously, you're not going to go ringing them at 3 a.m, but if you're ringing them, up till 9, 10 o'clock at night, them boys will answer the phone and they'll get back to you. So they're great like that. The support is really good. Anyway, I'm just talking rubbish. This is just me getting this prepped up. Again, this is nothing exciting. We're just prepping for epoxy primer here. Again, making sure all my edges are keyed up. It's always important. Edges are the most important to be keyed up, because your edges are where it's always going to flake. It's easy to key a centre of a panel up because it's just easy to pick a big sander up and rub it over the flat panel, but no one wants to rub edges or door shuts or awkward stuff by hand, because it is awkward, it is hard work, and it's not fun. But unfortunately, it's part of the job, so we've all got to do it. People that don't know, that's just what you've got to do. You can't get that big sander in that I'm using there now everywhere. Unfortunately, you have to rub by hand a lot of the time. All your awkward stuff, like your door hinges, they're never fun to rub by hand. They're just a nightmare. But yeah, it is part of the job, unfortunately. Yeah, getting that all keyed up in 320. Get that ready. get that epoxy on. That'll be when it gets exciting, when we start getting some spraying footage. I mean, I'll be excited when I get the van painted and I'm driving it again, but it'll be interesting to see it, the shell painted fully and sat there. Again, I'm not going to keep them silver standard rusty steel wheels on it. We will be getting some nice custom wheels put on the van. Nice set of alloy wheels. Not sure yet, but again, we'll probably buy something brand new. Probably paint them. I'll buy them. Probably won't be happy with them, and I'll paint them again, even though they'll be brand new. But at least there'll be no curb marks in them to take out, so that'll be nice. But yeah, it's nice painting brand new stuff because you don't have to worry about previous bad work, or brand new stuff's good. So yeah, we'll get some new wheels. We'll get them painted. But that'll be the last thing we do. That's not something even really thinking about at this moment in stage of the job. I've got bigger problems to worry about right now. I've still got welding to do. We've still got a bit of rust here and there. Yeah, we've got a lot more bigger problems on our plate right now. I need that windscreen out as well. That windscreen needs to come out pretty handy. I reckon we'll be in for a bit of a shock what is in behind there. It's either going to be really good or really bad. It just depends how well the seal has been holding it. Could be really rusty, it could be really clean. So yeah, we'll be in for a shock with that one for sure. So yeah, that's me just running a tack round now, tack rag. So they're like a lint-free, almost like it's not sticky, but it'll pick up dust really easily. So yeah, they're what you'd use if you'd wipe your panel down before you paint a job. You'd give your panel a tack off, blow it, tack it, and then that'd be the last thing you do before you put your paint on. But yeah, I just keep a dirty one. Say dirty, it's not dirty, but it's not one I'd take in and wipe a panel down with if I was painting. But it's just one I'd use for masking up. I always keep one handy. Again, masking that window out, want to keep that masking paper nice and tight. Whenever you're masking with brown paper, if your brown paper's all loose and flapping, whenever you pull the trigger on the gun and the air's coming out, it's all flapping like a flag, and you don't need that coming away and landing in your primer or your paint. So it's always good to do them really tight. You always want your masking tight, with your clear sheeting as well. If you're masking cars with your clear sheeting, it's always important to keep that tight. As well, you don't want overspray going up and landing on the car or the job, and then you've got to start buffing overspray off, and the customer's getting a full buff then, just because your masking wasn't good enough, basically. So, it's all them little things that do help in the long run, really. So yeah, that's just some rescue card from Mercedes they put in the door shuts. I'm not leaving them on. I don't need to be rescued anytime. No one's rescuing me. So we're going to get them ripped off. We're going to get the door shuts painted properly. No stickers, not masking around, no stickers. Don't need that. So yeah, I'm going to get my DA in as much of that door shut as I can, just because it's easier to get the DA in than it is rub by hand. Wherever you can get the DA in, it is quicker. And I'm not bothered about breaking through paint. Effectively, I want to break through that top layer to find out what rust is underneath, because that's where the rust is hiding. Once you get that top layer off on any Sprinter, any white Sprinter or any factory Sprinter that's not had previous paintwork outside the factory, yeah, you are going to find all them rusty spider legs that I keep talking about. I will have to get some close-ups of them, more close-ups for people to see, because people will just think I'm talking rubbish. We'll be like, what's he on about, spider legs? But yeah, that's what I call them. That's what we all call them in the trade. They just look like spider legs. Yeah, absolute nightmare on these vans, they are. Not fun. I'm lucky this is a small wheelbase and not a long wheelbase. Long wheelbase high top there, yeah, yeah, I have nightmares about them things, especially painting them. They're just, yeah, not fun at all. Shoulders are hanging off me at this point as it is, and I've got another day of this yet on Sunday. Yeah, it's not easy work, this. People don't actually understand how much your arms are moving and how much effort you've got to put in all the time. Everything's arm movement. You're just constantly pulling on this, rubbing that. You're just, yeah, it's not fun. So yeah, these clips I'm taking out here, that's for a trim that sits above the wing. People that know Sprinters will know what I'm on about. It's a little plastic triangle trim. Sits on them clips there. Them clips, they never come out without breaking. They are a one-time fit. I took There's 4 of them in there. I took 3 of them out. I broke 3 of them. I got 1 out successfully. That kind of puts it into context when I'm stripping these all the time, how hard it is to take them apart without breaking them. If I'm breaking 3 of them and only getting 1 out, that doesn't say a lot about them clips. So yeah, we'll order some brand new ones of them from Mercedes, because they're like they are a special clip. You can't get aftermarket ones of them. Again, I want that trim to fit back properly, so I don't want to put the aftermarkets back on. I have used them before, but yeah, I want to use the genuines. So yeah, just get some panel wipe rags now, some cloths, go in, get panel wipe, solvent-based degreaser, get any glue off, sticky residue from them stickers, again, clean around them door hinges, any grease, any oil. That's solvent-based degreaser, that'll just get that off for me, nice and clean, won't leave any oil, won't leave any silicone on there. Because again, paint's not going to stick if any of that's around, so it's all, you've got to keep your jobs clean, otherwise nothing's going to stick. So obviously we're going to get it all panel wiped towards the end when we're actually getting ready for epoxy. That's always, you're always going to panel wipe your jobs if you're new to this, but it's nice to panel wipe in between, if, again, because I've got a rub around there, I don't want to be rubbing near all glue and stuff, so I need to take all that glue off, especially oil and grease as well around the door hinges. Not that I want any paint going inside the hinges, because then the pins won't drop in, but yeah, you just don't want grease there because it can contaminate the full job. Any oil or anything, it's not what you want. So yeah, just getting that DA, feathering that epoxy primer that's in the door shut, feathering that into where I haven't sprayed it and where I have sprayed it, basically. Getting that all keyed up. Again, so much of this van is going down to bare metal. This is pretty boring for all you guys to watch. It's probably not the most exciting to be watching. There's not a lot of going on. It just looks like I'm rubbing that side over and over and over again, but I'm just making sure I'm all down to 320 grit. I've not got any coarse, nasty scratches in the side of it, because when we do paint it, if we were to paint it with nasty scratches in the side of it, 6 months down the line, you will see them. All the primer and paint will sink and shrink into it, and it'll look like you've rubbed it with a brick. It won't look pretty, it won't look nice, so this is why the proof is in the prep. You've got to spend the time prepping and making sure your prep is fine. The finer the prep, within reason, the nicer the overall job. So yeah, again, methods to the madness. Probably looks like I'm just doing the same thing over and over again, but there is a reason why I'm doing it. Don't want any shininess, because paint won't stick to shiny surfaces. Making sure we're well sanded, well keyed up. Again, taking any rust out as well. I probably should have got some close-ups. There was bits of rust. I was just backing the grub screw out of the hinge there. Take them out all the way. I'll throw that on the seat for now, and then I'll find somewhere to put them, because we're going to have to bare metal them and paint them, because we're going to paint them purple, the same purple as the van. Again, it's a Volkswagen Audi colour that we're painting it. Again, it's off of an Audi, but Volkswagen Audi share the same colours, so as they are the same group. So yeah, we're going to get into that in a bit. Again, I've got a lot of money to be spending on tinters very soon, but that'll be exciting, because then we're going to be making our own colour. Well, not our own, but I'm going to mix it myself on the scheme. Away we go. We'll mix 5 litres, get the shell done, and see what we need for the panels. Again, it's full inside and out respray, so we're probably going to use a lot of colour. But that Octral stuff, it covers well. It covers really good, to be honest. It's a really forgiving paint system. I must admit, as much as I've been chatting about it, I am a big fan of the Octral stuff. Again, a lot of the hand rubbing now, again, not fun. Rubbing hinges by hand, it is hard work on the hands, this stuff. It's not the most easier jobs. But yeah, it's got to be done. It is all part of the process, unfortunately. Being a painter and prepper, this is part of the job. Again, this probably hasn't been the most exciting for you guys to be watching, but yeah, it's just good for you to see what goes into a job like this. For people that don't know and people that do know, I've broke this video down. This is over a good few hours. This is probably about 5 hours down into half an hour. I've got the next segment, which is going to be masking up and getting the epoxy applied to that side of the van, and then we're onto the roof then. So yeah, no, we're trying not to bore everyone with hours and hours of content, trying to keep it short and sweet, because it is good to see, it's good to look back on, but yeah, trying to make it so it's done in real-ish time and everyone can see the full process but not be bored to death. with me waffling on absolute garbage and just watching me rub a van non-stop. Because yeah, no one wants to watch me sand this van for 9-10 hours straight. That would just be soul destroying. It's soul destroying enough for me doing it on my weekends, so I can imagine it would be for you boys watching it, and girls. But yeah, I can imagine there's mainly most people watching this are going to be lads either wanting to know how to paint or learning or just generally interested, but I can imagine there will be girls watching it as well. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into this job and getting it to where you want it, especially when you're as fussy as I am. People that know me know how fussy I am. It probably does a lot of people's head in how fussy I am at times, but I wouldn't be me if I wasn't as fussy I am. You know, that makes me who I am at the end of the day, and that's why your jobs are good, because you're a fussy man, and if you're a fussy man, that's not a bad way to be in this trade. You know, you can't accept bad work. You've got to be able to pick your own work, and in a constructive way, obviously. You know, you don't want to be slagging it off to death. But yeah, them inner wings, they're not pleasant to rub. You know, rubbing them by hand, you not cutting your hand, but you're catching your hand on jagged edges of metal. It's not the most pleasant of jobs. Trying to rub in them holes, trying to rub right behind that bracket. Yeah, not the best. Usually I do them with Scotch-Brite and panel wipe or degreaser because there's a lot of wax oil on them inner wings. As you can see, there's no paint on them inner wings from factory. They've just come in factory etch primer. There's no white on them, which is shocking, really. You know, Mercedes should be doing better than that. It's all about cost cutting, though, isn't it? These vans, no one would be buying the vans if they weren't lasting as long. But yeah, this one will be lasting a lot longer than the rest of them when I'm done with it. She'll be mint. She'll be a keeper anyway. But yeah, we're getting to the end of this little one now again. Sorry if I've been boring everyone in this one. This hasn't been the most exciting of content, but it is all part of it. So yeah, I want to say thanks for everyone to watching, because it does mean a lot to me, people spending their time watching, you know. So big thank you to everyone supporting me. And we'll get some more exciting stuff up soon. So thank you very much, everyone.